Welcome back to Autoimmune Adventures, the podcast where we talk honestly about living with chronic illness, learning how to advocate for ourselves and finding ways to live fully even when our bodies don't always want to cooperate. I'm Stacy, and today we're bringing you a conversation that feels incredibly timely for so many of us, especially those navigating chronic symptoms, burnout, or midlife changes while still trying to show up for life. Our guest is Kellie Lupsha. Kellie is a high-performance health coach, longevity expert, and former physical therapist with decades of experience in healthcare. Her work focuses on helping women reclaim their energy, confidence, and clarity by becoming what she calls the CEO of their health. What we appreciate about Kellie's approach is that it's not about chasing perfection or fixing what's wrong. It's about understanding your body, advocating for yourself, and building sustainable health from a place of ownership and respect. Kellie, we're really glad you're here. Welcome to Autoimmune Adventures.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for having me, ladies. It's, I never take it lightly when I'm in front of other people's audiences. I just know that it's a pleasure and a privilege. And so many people out there are looking to optimize their health, and whether they're just, feeling blah, whether they're really sick, or whether they're doing well, but no, there's another level, right? It's always great to share because, like I said, we all know our own bodies the best. And so we can figure out how to become that CEO by really tuning in and listening to ourselves.
I love that. I love that whole concept of being the CEO of your health. I'm excited to hear how this conversation goes today. But to start us off, can you tell us your story? Like, what personal experience or turning point led you to kind of step out of traditional healthcare, being a physical therapist, into the work that you do today?
Absolutely. Becky, I honestly have loved my whole career as a physical therapist, and I've been a PT for 30 years. And my specialty was traumatic brain injury, concussion, stroke survivors, neurological, like brain tumors. It was very difficult work, but it was so rewarding in helping people really recover their life back and their whole family and community's life back. We became family in all of it as I help people because it's such a difficult time. I tell people these are things that when you injure your brain, I hope and pray nobody has to go through that, because unlike other parts of the body that you can fix and replace more easily, the brain is not that way, right? We get one and that's it. So we really need to care for our brain. But as I was moving in my career, a couple pivotal points happened. One, about 17 years ago now, my dad had passed of cancer and he had just turned 69. And it just kind of awoke me of, there's not cancer in the family. He wasn't really sick. Was he a little overweight? Yeah. Was he probably a little stressed? Yeah. Could he have eaten better? Okay. Yeah. But like nothing. Oh yeah. Definitely he would have got cancer. And so I kind of started, doing my own due diligence and research of why. I realized because he passed after just a couple of years and my children were extremely young, they don't really have many memories of my dad. And I just said, wow, if this by chance could happen to my dad, I don't want it to happen to me. I want to be around when my kids one day have kids. So I'm here. So then what do I need to do differently? And that's when I really was like, oh my gosh, cancer is related to toxins of the world and chemicals that are plastics and EMFs, and then poor sleep and sugar and diet and all the things you start unraveling, right? When you like really peel back the curtain. And I and my husband's also PT. It was our practice together. What we did to help people recover was already out of the box. So people came to us, private pay, we were already out of the box. They came from all over. So we were always open to different things. And so in that, I thought, wow, we could bring in a lot of healing modalities that could aid in what we're doing in our practice. So we brought in hyperbaric oxygen, we brought in infrared sauna. And then I really learned about this whole world of nutrigenomics. And what's fascinating is nutrigenomics is really, in a simple term for everybody, is taking all natural ingredients in synergy that can turn the body's genes back on and off to express them or quiet them down. And that was a real awakening of, we have more power than we ever thought. And our genes are not our destiny. They're not our fate. So the second kind of pivot for me was, I was in my early 40s. One of my kids had gotten really sick and needed to be hospitalized. And I thought, oh my God, if I had to step away from work and not be able to like be practicing with hands on people, what am I going to do? And the second part, at the same exact time, I was, in the early 40s when you're like starting to take care of aging parents, and my in-laws had moved in, and I had 4 kids, and I was still like traveling. I was running myself ragged because most of us women are people pleasers. Will do it all. I can do it. Thank you very much. Hustle and grind culture. And I had to make a conscious decision of either I'm going to start making changes and start putting me first, because if I don't, I exactly may end up like my dad or a lot of my other women friends that were all ending up specifically with autoimmune or undiagnosed odd issues, right? I'll say, and or cancer. And I'm like, wow, if it's that easy when we don't take control of our health, that starts happening, I better take control now. So really these past 10 years for me, as I went from my early 40s to my early 50s, I was like, oh my gosh, if we just implement a few things, we can totally change how we feel. And this whole thing about aging isn't really true, that we have to feel bad as we're getting older. And whether you call that midlife, whether you call that, I think probably every single woman out there, if we don't really take a hard look at what we're doing and having some presence and making a few changes, we will all end up with autoimmune or cancer. It literally just is. And because of the world we live in, it's too easy to go down that road. And most people are looking for answers. And so that's when I was really like, you know what? I'm ready to step out of physical therapy. I'm ready to help more people. Now that I can work online, I can help people all over the world and have a bigger footprint, right? And especially in this whole world of nutrigenomics, when I've learned that I can help people turn on and off those genes and stay healthier, that our bodies are really the miracle.
I love that so much. I think that often in life, we just stick with the traditional method because it's what we know, it's what's there, it's what we've been told our whole life is the only thing that works. And then we get into this headspace, especially when you have a bunch of autoimmune stuff going on, where you realize traditional medicine is not serving me. It's just holding off things getting a whole lot worse. Meanwhile, we're not addressing the actual concern and problem that is going on here. What is wrong with me? What is truly, truly wrong with me? Throwing a pill at it is not going to help unless that pill actually goes into my body and reminds it how things are supposed to work. So I really love what you do. I'm curious, though, what do you think is one of the most important things for long-term wellness and vitality as you've now made this shift from traditional medicine into more of a addressing the root cause kind of medicine, so a little more holistic here? What do you think is one of the things we can do to really increase our long-term wellness and vitality besides the obvious things? Yeah. Obviously, we should exercise. Obviously, we should stay hydrated.
It's so funny you said that, Stacy, because I was going to say, well, let me just give a caveat, right? Everybody needs to make sure they have a sleep routine, because sleep is where we restore and we repair. And so like I tell people, you got to learn to sleep like a boss, right? Like you need to own that and keep that sacred. And of course, eating clean, and we're meant to move our body. I mean, those are a given, people, right? So yes. So on top of that, when we think about like how to stay well in this long-term wellness, is the processes that work inside of us with age are slowing down. And just with the world we're living in, now they're slowing down even faster. So those are things like mitochondria is being damaged. So our energy is being robbed. Our body is being riddled with oxidative stress, or this damaging of our cells, so our bodies can't work well. So being that fact, food, sleep, movement, then and of itself can't be the end all be all. Like I wish it could, but it can't, because we just live in a toxic soup world today. No matter how clean we try, we can't get away from a lot of it. We're bombarded, right? So that's where this whole field of nutrigenomics is coming in. And this is where I would tell people, before you jump to supplements, before you jump to IV therapy, before you start adding peptides, like all the things people want to do, you have to set the foundation to regulate our genes. And before 20 years ago, we never knew this was possible, because the Human Genome Project was just mapped. And they thought with figuring that out, that they could go, oh, if you have this gene, we'll give you this medication to fix it. Like they thought by mapping the genes, that would be the end all to disease and we could, heal everybody. But what we found out is that's not the case. It's very complicated. Our genes are this, complex system, and it's not one gene. It's this pattern and series of systems of genes. So one of the things that Washington State University came out with a literature review, and they studied what's called the NRF2 pathway. I know it's a little sciencey, but again, it's the letters NRF and then the number 2. That pathway, they said, is the biggest breakthrough in the history of preventative medicine, because what it does, that's inside of all of us, that's what's awesome, is every single one of us have it. Its job is the thermostat of our genes. It regulates over 200 survival genes, and it influences over 2,000 genes of the body. So I don't need to know, say like Stacy and Becky, we don't need to have to run your genetics or my genetics, even though like I think we've all done that and we could probably geek out on some science about that. However, for the average individual, let's just say they're not interested. Like whatever is my fate, it's my fate. Okay. But I think we could 100% agree. We all want our good genes to work well. That means turned on or be positively expressed. We could 100% agree we want our bad genes or our negative genes turned down, right? Or suppressed, so they're not being triggered. This pathway's job is just that. Just like we have to go in and let's say you have to tune a piano because it's like at your grandmother's house, it's been sitting for years, somebody tries to play it and you're like, oh God, that piano sounds so terrible. We walk around and we feel so terrible, but we need that piano tuned. We need our genes tuned. You tune it, it's like, oh, that piano sounds beautiful. You tune our genes and you're like, oh my God, I feel amazing. What happened? This is how profound this NRF2 pathway is, because let me just point out maybe 3 key genes that a lot of your audience would just like be aware of. So the first one is our own body's natural anti-inflammatory gene, because inflammation's the big baddie, right? Root cause of so many different diseases or dis-ease in the body, I'll say. So it turns on your body's ability to fight inflammation. So instead of taking all sorts of supplements to help inflammation a little bit, this turns on your body's anti-inflammatory gene and says, oh, no, get back to work. We have the ability to fight that ourselves. The second gene is our body's ability to detoxify. A lot of us have genes that slow our detox, or a lot of our bodies, again, just from what we've been doing and eating, our detox pathways have slowed down. And when we don't detox well and sweat and pee and poop regularly, then those toxins are being held. They're held in fat cells. They're held in our brain. They're held in places that give us brain fog, weight gain, not feeling well, poor metabolic health. So we have to get rid of these toxins. Now, here we are towards the beginning of the year. So there's a lot of people that are like, oh, I'm going to do my detox 7 days or 3 weeks or whatever. That may be good, but it's not necessarily positive to do a massive detox all at once, because now you're going to feel really bad and everything's going to flood out. And if you can't get things to move out of the right direction, again, you could be causing more havoc than help, maybe. However, because our body naturally detoxes, we just need to turn back on that switch. That's another one of the genes that the NRF2 pathway does, is it upregulates our own detoxification pathways. So now on a regular daily basis, we're doing the detoxification like our body should. Not once a quarter, not a 7-day detox, every single day. And then the third gene I'll talk about is our body's ability to make our own antioxidants. Everybody knows you should take antioxidants. And so they're taking maybe a turmeric supplement. They're eating their blueberries or kale or whatever they're taking. But this is what we are learning. The body, just from the natural processes, our bodies have trillions of free radicals. And free radicals are what cause damage. They're an imbalance of electrons that cause damage. It is normal for us to have them. We have a mechanisms of getting rid of them. However, because we have so many, when we eat our way to good health with traditional antioxidants, they only fight that battle of one good guy and one bad guy, and that equation is over. So if we think by just taking our antioxidants, it's going to make a dent in all those free radicals, it's not. But when our body turns on that gene to make our own antioxidants, our body turns on the ability to make catalase, SOD or superoxide dismutase, and glutathione. It upregulates glutathione production by up to 300%. When our own body makes them, we fight that exact same battle instead of at a 1-to-1 ratio at 1,000,000 to 1 per second every single. It's unbelievable. So I just tell people, like, do you want to go fight a fight with somebody like 1-to-1, or you want to bring a whole team with you? Like, come on. So like I said, there's 200 survival genes, but I thought those 3 would be things that people kind of are talking about or understand. So that's what I would say is, if I could pick one thing, because this is going to be the foundation. When you turn on the body's processes to get started, now we've got a better terrain for anything to land.
Yeah.
I love that you said that, because here's the thing. We always talk about how the body keeps score, right? We don't often talk about how the body really is the best way for us to heal. The body knows what it needs to do. We just need to help it.
Yeah.
Instead of medicating it. There are ways that we can actually, and I'm not anti-medication.
Yeah.
I think it has a place. But I think that it comes back to that root cause situation.
Yeah. And I was going to say, yes, none of our listeners take this as anti-medication, because I will tell you, with all of my autoimmune problems, I definitely am on medication that I am grateful for, that helps me. But I'm always also looking for ways, like you said, because the body has that, it heals itself. And sometimes, when, like, for me, Stacy, Alicia, we all have multiple autoimmune disease. We're not going to heal overnight. Healing's a process. But so, take your medication for what you need. Look at other options to help you heal long-term is what I would say. That's what we've been trying to do. And I appreciate that you brought up the one about detoxing and stuff. We talk about that a lot. We have 6 kind of pillars that we talk about frequently on our podcast. And one of them is detoxing your liver and kidneys. And the idea, like you said, not that a big old detox protocol is a bad thing per se, depending on how you do it. But our bodies, if treated well and given the right things, detox naturally.
They do. Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of going along with what you were talking about with what do you feel like has surprised you the most about the body's ability to heal and adapt when it is given the right support?
Such a great question, Becky. Okay, so I've really been, I can't say dabbling. I started dabbling in this field about 12 years ago or so, right? And now here I am. So the biggest aha I think I have seen is a handful of people. So I'm somebody that has been relatively healthy most of my life. Okay. So when I started implementing some of these for me, I didn't have this light bulb moment other than I was like, wow, I'm sleeping deeper. Oh, I'm getting more energy back again. Oh, and I believe what I've done now for the past 10 years has given me this aliveness I have today that I don't think I would have had if I didn't start implementing this. But people that have been sick, I'll say, and that have been battling without answers, I've been shocked at, after such a short period of time, how quickly they feel better. And I don't mean like a day or two, right? But in a couple months, and the couple months is like radically fast when you think a lot of people have been suffering for years. And they're like, oh my God, I just woke up and my brain fog is gone. I just woke up and I feel like I'm me again. I just kind of am like, where did these aches and pains disappear to? Because sometimes we kind of forget, like when we're a little bit better, like that 1% better, you forget where you were. And so people that have had severe autoimmune that are just like, I couldn't even get out of bed and I can't even believe it. I was barely walking. I needed assistance. And now I'm traveling with my grandkids. I had like a brain tumor and my tumor has shrunk or gone. I mean, and this is no medical advice. And I'm not saying that nutrigenomics, heals, cures, treats, mitigates any disease or disease process, right? But when you activate the body, what the body is capable is is unbelievable. It is true. And wouldn't say this with such, confidence and authenticity if I didn't see it with my own eyes of people that I've known have had these transformations. So it's not like a story I read. No, I've known the people. I've known the diagnosis of stage 4 cancer. I've known the diagnosis of 3 autoimmune and you can't get out of bed. And then I've seen it with my own eyes, which is just, I can't believe it, it's so beautiful. And that's why I get so passionate about it, because I know there's people out there begging for answers.
I think there are, and I think there's a lot that goes into it, and I'm glad you clarify, because we are very careful on our podcast that there are no quick fixes, that there are no, for sure, if you do this, it will solve all your problems, because so much of it is dependent on the body's ability to kick it in. And for some people that can happen quickly. For other people, it happens more slowly. And there are so many things involved, because we get back to those basics. It's great if you're feeding your body the right nutrients, if you're exercising, if, right? So it's that whole concept of combining all the things you know are right and good, and then giving your body the instructions to do things effectively. So I love that you talk about that. Let's shift for just a second though and talk about mindset, because we've talked a lot about the body, which I think is extremely important. But let's talk about the mind as well. I know that mindset is a loaded word and it's overused and it's misunderstood, but where do you see mindset genuinely helping people move forward? And where do you see it maybe holding them back a little?
Oh, okay, Stacy. It's so funny you just said this question, because I wanted to really take us there. So I run women's programs, and, we start the year, but all throughout the year, my big thing that I'm trying to help people with, and again, could be anybody, I'm speaking to women as most of my people, is it's your identity. Okay. Most women that have never felt fabulous don't have the identity of I'm a well person. I'm a healthy person. Because they either haven't been or their family history of, and let's take you guys in your audience of, if you've been battling autoimmune more than a hot minute, right? You end up embodying the identity of I have autoimmune, right? And if you identify as that, then your body says, oh, therefore, your thoughts and your actions will follow suit because you have autoimmune. You better not exercise because it could hurt you. You better, not think you could do the natural route because you're sick. You have to have medical help, right? We don't consciously think this, but this identity of who we are starts infusing all of our cells. So when we talk about mindset, it's really starting with, I tell people, because of when you sleep, we have that ability to repair and restore, but we're also doing neuroprogramming. The brain is an incredible organ if we use it to the maximal benefit. So let's just say you're going to bed, and as you're going to bed, you're telling yourself, I'm whole, I'm healed, I'm a person that is capable of moving my body how I want to, and I don't have aches and pains, and I don't, right? Like I'm a light to others and whatever. So we sleep. When we wake up in the morning, the neuroscience says you have 4 to 7 seconds to either be programmed of everything the day before, because most we don't want to have new thoughts and things. We do the exact same thing. That's why we all live in a thing called Groundhog's Day practically. You have 4 to 7 seconds to make your brain decide what is your identity and what do you want to think and feel today. And if you don't make a shift, you will automatically fall back into everything from the day before. So if you take what happened overnight, now it's top of mind when you wake up to say, I'm before your feet even get out of bed, right? I'm a healthy person, so I make great decisions and I feel good. And sometimes I know it's hard because when you don't feel good, it's hard to tell yourself you are feeling good. But audience, follow along with me, right? It's not the fake it till you make it. It's really not. But when you identify that, your thoughts become that. Therefore, the actions you choose during the day, the chances are your habits and behaviors are going to follow more of that healthier version of you versus this old identity of you. And it could be at any level. And you could, of course, use this to people that, are trying to go through a change of a relationship or financial issue, many things. Obviously, we're talking about health. So that is the thing. And the struggle is our mind will play tricks on us. Our mind will default to comfort. Our mind will default to our preferences. And in the world, it's still kind of thought of, well, it's in my family history, so I'm destined to just have this. So it's really, we have to surround ourselves in a community like your community, like other women's community, that's talking about, no, it's possible. Otherwise, the world around you and the people you hang out with all have that mentality. Then you're trying to build this new identity and mindset from a place of people that aren't supported, people that don't believe you, environments that don't believe you. So it all comes full circle. But I would tell people, like, you can't just read good books. That's great. I do. I would say infuse yourselves in people's world that they're all giving you that healthy mindset. And you yourself, going back to becoming the CEO of your health, you have to plant the seed. You've got to do the work. And the work's not hard. Make the work fun. Because when it's fun, life is fun, you'll stick to stuff. If things aren't fun and they're grueling, how long are you going to stick to something that's not very fun? So that's really, Stacy, what I would say to mindset is it is critical, because you could do all the right things, but if your mind is poisoning yourself, your body will go, oh, of course I'm not going to work very good for you. Of course I'm going to give you all these aches and pains. Of course, and so you're like, why isn't it working? Right? So you really have to pair the behaviors with the identity, and they'll really go, hand in hand.
Yeah. And I was going to say one of the things, because we've talked a little bit about this before, and some people are not comfortable, like you said, necessarily saying I'm healthy when they don't feel like they're healthy. But I believe you can still tell yourself a truth about things. Like, you can say things like, I'm someone who makes healthy decisions for my body.
Yep.
Because even if you don't feel healthy and you don't feel like you can say, I am healthy, you can find a truth that still improves whatever situation you're in,
And Becky, you could say that truth of, my body has the right tools inside of me to heal and repair. And that is the truth, right?
Absolutely. So kind of along with that, as we're talking about mindset, for people who feel overwhelmed by their symptoms, maybe like lots of appointments, just feel overwhelmed in general, and conflicting advice, because everybody has a different view on how to treat or how to deal with autoimmune diseases. Where do you encourage them to start so that they don't shut down or just give up?
Such a great question. Okay, so there was a lot to kind of unpack in that, but let's start of somebody is very sick, very overwhelmed. You have to pick one thing that's so easy to do, because if it's too hard or too complicated, you have to keep a high level of motivation to keep that up. So it's like, let's take motivation off the table and make it so easy you don't need that. So some of the things I have people start with, I say, if you win the morning, you win your day. So if you pick one thing in the morning to start with, and that one thing could be you drink 16 ounces of water when you get up before you do anything else. I fuel my body and hydrate it. And that's all you do for 1 month. That's all. You're going to add one thing. Can I just drink that glass of water? From there, you habit stack. Wow, this is so easy. Step 2 is now, like, for instance, I have a Vibe plate. I keep it in my bathroom. So after I drink my glass of water, I literally, you have 2 minutes of your electric toothbrush. So I stand on my Vibe plate while I'm brushing my teeth. It's one more healthy habit to stack. Doesn't take me any time longer. I don't need to do anything. You could hold the counter if you need to while you're standing on it. You do one thing. I try to tell people is start with your water, start with your mindset. And if you can do that even before you get out of bed, right? That first few seconds. And if you can give yourself, let's just say 3 to 5 minutes, talk about your day, your positivity, you're going to bless somebody's life, like nourish your mind of some goodness. And if you can't do that, journal, maybe journal a little bit, read the Bible, read a book, like 5 minutes. And then eventually you'll move up to, can I move my body for 5 minutes? Right? But you can't even do all three at once. Because if you don't do all three, like, oh, I didn't did it, I failed. No, start with one. One thing that's just so easy. And the other thing about the conflicting advice, I think, is extremely, extremely difficult, because then people go in shutdown mode because they say a confused mind, like, doesn't make any choices. We have to give ourselves a little bit of presence and time and calmness to listen to our own self. And most of the times, especially as us women, we're not very good at that. And I believe the more quiet we can become and listen to ourselves, we know the answers, meaning, I'm going to go with this advice. We're getting advice from 3 or 4 people. It's all conflicting. I'm not sure. You can't go with all of it. But what feels right to you, no matter if the science says it's right or not, you have to believe it's right for you to start in that direction and not criticize, not keep second guessing, because this second guessing or this undecision creates a lot of havoc inside of us. So you need to peacefully be able to make that decision and say, I'm going to go with this for the next 6 months. I feel this is where I need to be. This is what I want to do. No disrespect. And then in 3 to 6 months, you reevaluate, right? Like, am I feeling a little better? And maybe you've gone down some rabbit hole that you're like, oh God, had this friend convince me about this? This really was not the right path. That's okay. It's okay. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the author James Clear. He wrote the book called Atomic Habits. He has this whole thing about, he calls it hats, haircuts, and tattoos. And what he means by that is you could make a decision, and some decisions are like putting on a hat. You put on this hat, you're like, oh, it's a bad decision. Oh, it's easy to take off that hat. Oh, let me pivot and make this decision. I'm going to put on this hat. Nobody knows. Nobody cares. We have got lots of hats. Try things. No big deal. Then you've got haircuts. If you get a bad haircut, you're like, oh, I got to live with this for a couple months. But honestly, it's the first week or 2 that's painful. And then you're like, it's okay. And then in 2 to 3 months, you can reshape your hair to something different. So there are certain decisions that you may make and go, whoa, I don't know about this. But you wait it out. And then in that 2 or 3 months time, it's either going to turn out okay, or it still isn't where you needed to be, but still no harm, right? It's like, okay, it's a bad haircut. It's not a big deal. We've all made some decision or decided to follow something crazy. And you're like, why did I do that? It's okay. And then the third he says is tattoos. When you do something that's a tattoo, it's now pretty permanent, not completely, but pretty permanent. I would say that's meaning so, like, you're having some radical surgery. You're like doing something really major that's like, maybe I can't unpack this. So for now, think about a lot of these things as just you're trying on hats, right? Like, it's easy to change. Ultimately, when we're talking about our health, we got to move towards haircuts, because you have to have something a little bit more long-term. You'll never know if something works or doesn't work in a day or 2. Like, that's just impossible, because what we do know is occasionally, if we do the right thing, we could feel a little worse before we feel better, right? And so that's okay. But truly, I would say, Becky, you have to align your heart with what you believe to be true and stick to it. And, you may have to like turn off some Instagram stuff you're following. You may have to like turn off somebody that is chiming at you that wants you to do something different. When you make the decision that this is what I want to do, and believe in yourself.
That's fantastic. Great advice. All right. As we wrap up, I have one last question for you. If listeners walk away from this conversation that we've had today with one belief shift about their health or their bodies, what would you want that to be?
You guys have to believe our bodies were designed to heal. We were not designed with systems that don't work. We were truly designed to operate to the fullest capacity, to live well, to feel alive. And if you can believe that with your whole heart, know yes, your systems right now might be gunked up. You need a few cups of oil changes. Maybe you need this 60,000 mile tune up, right? But tell yourselves, okay, potentially the choices I've had in my life have led me to where I am, and our genes have some effect on that. But through our lifestyle and diet and choices in the world, this is where I am. And that is just the fact of today. But moving forward now, to be able to say, my body has what it needs to heal, and I'm going to take one step in the right direction towards that healing process every single day.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate that. We will make sure that everyone has all the information they need to contact you, because this is a much bigger discussion than we were able to cover today. And we want to be able to put our audience in contact with you. So all of that information will be in the show notes. And is there anything you would like to mention that as far as contact information?
No, I'm pretty easy to find as Kellie Lupsha. It's the uniqueness about how you spell Kellie that I'm easy to find, whether it's on, Instagram, or even my website is kellielupsha.com. And I'll also let all of your listeners know that in late February, March, my doctor friend, Dr. Heidi Aratzabal, she's a naturopath and a functional medicine doctor. We're doing a 2-week energy upgrade. And we'd love to have your audience just participate and start learning some strategies of how to upgrade their energy and live a little, feeling better. So we'll make sure they have all that information as well.
All right. Fantastic. We'll make sure that's all in the show notes.
Such a pleasure to be here with you and all of your audience.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. And listeners, remember, you're worthy of joy. Disease does not define your life. You do.